No, it takes place in a no, it takes place in a no, it takes place in a pool.
Hey y'all, and welcome to a new episode of Talkin With Taylor. Today I'm joined by Sean Thompson, the man behind the mutton chops, Raoul, the one and only Raoul, in the national tour of Love Never Dies. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming to chat with me. Yeah. Let's jump right in. Where were you born?
I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Born and raised, lived there most of my entire life.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
What got you into acting? What made you catch the bug?
I really think I was born with it. I can't remember a time when I decided, oh, I like this, or oh, I want to do this. It just sort of was what I did, you know. I was that kid who ran around the house pulling my t-shirt over my head and making crazy sounds and entertaining everybody, you know, and singing my kindergarten songs for the entire neighborhood. My parents used to encourage me to sing for the women who ran the salon next door.
Okay. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's always kind of in there.
They're probably still your biggest fans.
They still come to see my shows. Yeah, definitely.
A built-in audience.
Exactly, yeah. Very sweet.
I love that. So tell me a little bit about your road to Broadway. So you grew up in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. How did you make your way to New York? What was your first Broadway experience?
For the longest time, I sort of bounced around the country, just going job to job. You know, we just follow wherever the work goes.
Sure.
Got to pay those bills. So I was in New York after college. I actually came here to Missouri to work a bunch. I was in Philly, I was in DC, where my mom lives, California, and Colorado mostly. Just bouncing around. And when the bouncing around got old, I decided to move back to Philly permanently. There's a lot of good theater there, a lot of good work.
Absolutely.
And it's where all my friends and family were. So I made the big boy decision to get my own apartment again, in a beautiful neighborhood with a great friend of mine in Philly. Was working at a great theater there, having a great time with life, you know? Yeah. And then, of course, the way the universe works, I booked my first Broadway show after I got very comfortable and there.
Of course.
So I just sort of got uprooted and said, you have to go back to New York. But for great reason, I booked the revival of Sunset Boulevard, playing opposite Glenn Close as the cover to the male lead.
Absolutely.
And I had done Sunset twice before, once in DC and once in Philly. And Joe Gillis is kind of one of my roles, you know, just really fits like a glove, and I love doing it, and it's always fresh to me because I'm always finding something new with him. So it sort of just made sense that would be my Broadway debut. Never really planned it that way, but...
So tell me a little bit more about Sunset Boulevard. So it's another classic Andrew Lloyd Webber piece, and you know, it was Glenn Close's return however many years later.
Yes.
What was that experience like?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, you know when you just know something's gonna work out in your gut? That's how the audition process was for Sunset. I was like, I think I'm gonna book this. This is gonna be my first Broadway show. And it was just two auditions. One audition for the ensemble and then one to come in for Joe, and bing, bang, boom, I was offered it. Yeah. You know, you build it up for years and years in your mind as it's gonna be this, and you go, oh, just two quick auditions and boom. The production had played in London and it transferred over. So we sort of got plugged into it. The four principals came over from London, including Glenn. And we kind of were just told, like, your track does this, this, and this. You're going to cross here, you're going to say this, you're going to go here. We had 2 weeks of rehearsal.
Oh, wow.
Learned the whole show in 1 week and ran it that Saturday night in rehearsal.
How long did that show run?
We ran for 6 months, extended twice. It was always meant to be a limited thing because Glenn was like, I'll come back, but I'm not doing a whole run here. And it was cool because the original production, I don't know if you know, in the 90s was one of the biggest sets Broadway had ever seen and still has ever seen. Yeah. I think when it toured, it had like 22 trucks or something like that. Our production was exactly the opposite. It was basically two giant staircases that crisscrossed, came down, flanking a 40-piece orchestra on stage, which was sort of amazing, obviously. Most orchestras on Broadway right now are like 16 pieces. Right. We had 40.
Wow.
Which Andrew Lloyd Webber came in.
Energy on the stage too, I'm sure.
Oh, unbelievable to sing with that behind you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You know, and I had done like regional production of Kiss Me Kate with one piano before.
Right.
So to go, just it's so funny that the different experiences you have in that way. But yeah, so Sunset was amazing, and what a masterclass to, first of all, watch Glenn every night. When she sang As If We Never Said Goodbye, her big Act 2 number, I was 4 feet from her.
Endless crying.
And just
sure.
But then playing opposite her, of course, I've never acted better in my life, obviously, because it's Glenn Close
Right.
that you're acting with. And just the things you pick up and learn, that was like a graduate degree right there. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm sure,
Yeah.
Like both feet in.
Yeah,
Diving
just diving,
first.
literally diving right in,
Yeah,
as we all know. It takes place in a pool. Yeah, and I've got so many stories about Glenn and that show.
Any
It was
favorites?
a very... Which one should I tell? Well, she stopped the show once when I was doing the show with her, one performance. Which she should have. She was singing With One Look, her first big number. It's just she and I on stage, and she's singing right to me, and I'm already like, oh my gosh, is this happening? Is this real life? And all of a sudden she goes, I'm sorry, please stop, to the orchestra. And I'm like, what's going on? She's like, somebody's out there taking pictures. Can somebody do something about that? And she's pointing at someone in the audience. But what was amazing is she was super gracious about it. It wasn't off-putting at all. I mean, some stars, when they've done that,
She
it's been
didn't,
publicized.
go
as
down and drag them out.
No, she literally said, she's like, look, you live your life. Do you want a photo shoot or do you want a performance? I'm happy to give you either. You just tell me what you want.
That's funny.
Very, very gracious.
She seems very gracious.
Yes, and I didn't know what to do. I was just sort of looking at her.
Yeah.
And then the whole audience started applauding. And so I did too. I was like, yeah.
Go, Glenn.
And then she said, okay, from the top of the number.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so it was amazing. It was just a fleeting experience that I never expected to pop up in my life, and then has taken me on this complete right turn, which led to Love Never Dies.
Let's talk Love Never Dies. So, you went from one amazing role of Joe Gillis and now into this, even grander role of Raoul.
Yeah.
And Love Never Dies. So, tell, our Phantom fans out there in the dark a little bit about the show, what they might expect.
So yeah, it's 10 years later. It is a sequel to The Phantom of the Opera, although Andrew likes to say it's a standalone piece. And of course it is. It's got its own beautiful score, soaring, amazing score. I'm a huge Weber nerd, obviously. So it's got its own thing, but it is a sequel to Phantom. So it's all the favorite characters from Phantom back again, 10 years later. The Phantom, it's no secret, he has survived the Paris Opera House fire that basically happens at the end of Phantom. And he's made his way to Coney Island, New York City, 1907. So the heyday of Coney Island, when it became a big amusement area, and there were lots of circuses and sideshows and vaudeville houses and burlesques, and it was very exciting. A lot of entertainment to be had. Yeah. So he comes and opens his own little sideshow, basically, with the help of Madame Giry from the original and her daughter Meg. And Christine has become an international opera diva, a big star, who is invited to America to open a new opera house in New York City. So of course the Phantom hears about that and lures she and Raoul, who is now her husband, to Coney Island, and then madness ensues.
Let's talk about the role of Raoul.
Yeah.
I read that you're a fanatic of modern American literature, so let's address Raoul and literary archetypes.
Okay.
So in the original Phantom, he's very much Prince Charming, very just a flat character.
Two-dimensional for sure.
Two-dimensional for sure. But things happen in Love Never Dies that it's after Happily Ever After.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's definitely Act 2 of Into the Woods.
Yeah.
If we're talking Prince Charming. In the original, he was a knight in shining armor. That's what he was. He saved Christine from the Phantom. That's kind of what you get, a real gallant gentleman. In this, you get... you see the dings in his armor, is the way I like to put it. You know, he's still a gallant gentleman, but 10 years of life have happened to him, and they haven't been kind. He's in a loveless marriage, or a marriage that has its trials and tribulations, for many reasons, which we uncover throughout the show. He basically, to me, was a guy who was super rich, had a lot of money, a lot of family money, and he literally had the title Vicomte because his family was well-to-do. And that's sort of how he identified himself in the original. He's a rich guy who likes to patronize the arts, who likes to support opera because he likes opera. Sure. And so what happens to that guy when that money's gone, which is what Love Never Dies explores. He has no money left. He has to support their now 10-year-old child, and Christine, of course, and he can't. So he turns to gambling to try and make up for that, and loses even more of the money, and then turns to drinking. And these are problems that I think make him a little more of a universal character. You know, he has human flaws, which every human has.
It's a much deeper character.
Yeah, so definitely more fleshed out.
Where do you channel as you play that? I mean,
what do I pull from?
Yeah.
I started, because I knew Phantom of the Opera so well, just being such a big fan of it. I started there, and then tried to trace along, like, what would happen to that guy if you stripped away the things that made him so gallant. Right. Because what happens in Love Never Dies, without giving too much away, is that he decides to kind of go back to being that guy as much as he possibly can.
Yeah.
So I started there. But I just kind of imagine, like, myself in that situation. You know, if I had everything I could possibly want and then suddenly didn't, what would that do to me? Right. And just in the text, you find a guy who's really agitated and bothered by everything in that aristocratic kind of way, you know? So, yeah, that's kind of how I made my way into him. My main thing has been gaining sympathy for him, because it's easy if you pick up the book and you read it, it's easy to go like, wow, this guy has become an ass, to be honest. Right. You know, it's become something of a louse, you know. But he's got to be relatable, and the audience has to have sympathy for him, or they go like, well, choose the Phantom. Even though the Phantom is a serial killer and has his own problems of his own. Yeah, so that's been my biggest challenge, and especially Andrew, I will tell you, really is interested in seeing a Raoul who's dangerous and someone who's going to snap at any moment. That's sort of the Raoul that he envisions. So I've got to honor that, but I've also got to find a way that people can go like, well, I understand. Yeah. What's beautiful is that Andrew gives him a solo in Act 2 that's very introspective and, like, gives him the opportunity to look inside himself and explain to the audience, here's why I'm so messed up. Right. You know, so I love that, because in the original you don't get inside that guy at all, besides for the fact that he loves Christine. That's kind of what you get. But this, you really get to see inside, you know.
Well, I can't wait to hear that song in Act 2. Yes. So let's jump back into real life for a minute. We like to play a game on this show called Explain That Gram, where I dig into your Instagram, and I want to know the backstory behind these photos.
I'm a little scared.
So we'll start with this one.
Oh, the Mary Tyler Moore House.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm a huge sitcom
Me too.
nerd.
That's why I picked it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love classic sitcoms. It's just one of my passions. And when we were going to Minneapolis, the only thing I could think of was seeing all the Mary Tyler Moore stuff. Yeah. So I rented a bike and drove there. It was hard to recognize, though, because since the show was shot in the 70s, they've added these outside porches.
They added a porch.
So I couldn't really recognize it at first.
But you found it.
But yeah, I found it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. There's Mary's apartment.
I love that.
Yeah.
How about this one?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's from Nashville Pride.
Yeah.
It was the very first time I was involved in a Pride walk. And it was just so happened that Nashville was hosting it when we were there. And we were like, we should go. Yeah. We should take part. And then Richard Coons, who plays Squelch, and our company manager, Justin Kaufman, made this rainbow phantom mask, which made me so excited. So yeah, I wore it on the walk, and it was a hit. It was super hot. It was like 100 degrees out, and my face was disgustingly sweaty underneath that mask. But yeah, it was fun to represent.
And this is a more recent one.
Oh, very recent. I just posted that on my birthday on Sunday.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. It was my 300th performance as Raoul, too.
Yeah.
So I thought, here's some introspective mirror shot to depict that.
I love that. I love that. Well, here's to 300 more performances.
Yes, definitely.
There's many beyond that. Well, thanks for coming to chat with me today,
Thanks
Sean.
for having me.
I've loved having you.
I've loved being here.
Good. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Talkin With Taylor. For more videos like this, follow us on social media at KC Starlight and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/KC Starlight. Love Never Dies plays Starlight Theatre now through August 19th. Get your tickets at kcstarlight.com.